Sometimes the person you sleep beside every night is not who you think they are. This is the story of a husband whose perfect life unraveled with the arrival of one mysterious envelope, revealing a wife with secrets so dark they led to betrayal, deception, and death. If you enjoy real-life crime drama storytelling, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a twist in the tale. James and Eliza Matthews were admired by everyone in their quaint Charleston neighborhood. Their marriage was the definition of serenity. Sunday morning pancakes, joint evening walks, and weekly date nights. James, a history teacher at the local high school, was known for his warmth and patience. Eliza, a freelance editor, worked from home and always had a smile for neighbors. To the outside world, they were the kind of couple that made others believe in true love. But beneath that image lay unspoken truths and an invisible wall Eliza had carefully built. James had always respected Eliza's boundaries. She claimed to have grown up in foster care, bouncing from home to home, with little recollection of her biological family. He never pushed, thinking it was too painful for her to relive. There were no childhood photos, no stories about teenage adventures, and no friends from before their marriage. James accepted this as part of her trauma, until the day it all started to unravel. One afternoon, a large manila envelope arrived without a return address. James casually brought it into the kitchen, thinking it was another one of Eliza's client manuscripts. But when she saw it, her demeanor changed immediately, face drained of color, hands trembling. She didn't open it in front of him. She clutched it to her chest and retreated to their bedroom, closing the door. When James knocked gently and asked, she dismissed it. Just old tax records. But something in her voice told him that was a lie. Eliza began to change. She became distant, barely touching her food at dinner, staring into space. Her once regular work calls became short and scattered. She began locking her office, something she'd never done before. When James tried to reconnect, she claimed she was just overwhelmed with freelance deadlines. But at night, he noticed her crying silently, turning away from him in bed. It wasn't just stress. Eliza was unraveling. Late one night, James awoke to a faint whisper. He tiptoed toward the hallway and heard Eliza on the phone, pacing. Her voice was panicked. "You can't just show up again. Not after all this time." She paused, listened, then said with venom, "You promised to leave me alone." James stood frozen. When Eliza turned and noticed him, she hung up immediately. "Wrong number," she smiled, but her trembling hands betrayed her calm facade. That night, James couldn't sleep. He remembered the envelope, the locked doors, the calls. Something wasn't right. The next day, while Eliza was grocery shopping, James dug through her office trash. Beneath crumpled papers, he found shreds of the manila envelope. One jagged piece bore a return address from a Georgia State Correctional Facility. Another had part of a name, Lang's Ton. The truth began to flicker at the edges of his mind. James turned to the internet. After piecing together the partial name and prison address, he discovered a record for a woman named Marie Langston, released from a Georgia state prison over 10 years ago. Her crime? Accessory to second-degree murder. When he pulled up the mugshot, his breath caught in his throat. Despite the grainy photo and the passage of time, he recognized her eyes. It was Eliza. James waited until dinner. The air was thick with tension as he slid the printed mugshot across the table. Eliza stared at it in silence. Her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, "I was going to tell you, someday." She confessed her name was Marie Langston, and she had done time in prison. She begged James to let her explain the full story, that it wasn't what it looked like. She told him everything, or so he thought. At 19, she was in love with Curtis Ward, a man deeply involved in the criminal underworld. When he killed a drug dealer who owed him money, she helped him clean up the scene. She claimed she was young, scared, and manipulated. Despite testifying against Curtis, she still served 4 years. Upon release, she entered witness protection and became Eliza. James listened, numb, as the woman he thought he knew crumbled before him. James was torn. He loved Eliza, but she had lied about everything. Still, he couldn't deny the pain and remorse in her eyes. Was she the same scared young girl manipulated by a predator? Or was she still hiding something worse? He chose to stay quiet, hoping it would all blow over. But the mail was only the beginning. 3 weeks passed, and another envelope arrived. This one contained printed photographs, Eliza in Curtis's arms, laughing. Another note, "I'm back, and I want what's mine." Eliza broke down and admitted Curtis had somehow found her again. He was threatening to reveal her past unless she paid him off, or did worse. She began pacing constantly, avoiding windows, and refused to go outside. Her freelance work stopped altogether. "He'll kill us," she whispered. James didn't know if she was being dramatic or if Curtis really was as dangerous as she described. The woman who once controlled every detail of their lives now seemed completely unraveled. Eliza told James she would meet Curtis one last time to buy his silence. She wouldn't tell James where or when. That night, she didn't return home. Her phone went straight to voicemail. James waited, sleepless, heart racing, until sunrise. Using an app they'd both installed for safety, James tracked her location to a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. He arrived just in time to see her exiting a room, tears streaming, blouse torn and shaking. James drove her home, but she refused to speak. He wanted to storm in and confront Curtis, but Eliza warned him, "He'll kill you. He's not bluffing." James ignored her. The next day, he went back to the motel and knocked on Curtis's door. The man who answered was large, cocky, and covered in tattoos. He smirked. "You must be the husband." Curtis made it clear. He owned Eliza's past and would destroy her unless he got what he wanted. James realized then, this man wouldn't go away quietly. Curtis said he had an audio recording of Eliza admitting to orchestrating the murder. Whether it was true or manipulated didn't matter. If he sent it to the cops, Eliza's new life would end. Curtis demanded $50,000 in cash. "You've got 2 weeks," he growled, "or your wife goes back to prison." Cornered, Eliza finally confessed to James. She hadn't just helped Curtis after the fact. She planned the murder. The man Curtis killed had beaten her sister. She wanted him dead, and Curtis obliged. She sobbed, "I thought I was doing the right thing, but now he's punishing me for it." James could barely breathe. The woman he married was capable of premeditated murder. James moved into the guest room. Their marriage collapsed under the weight of secrets and lies. At school, James struggled to focus. His students noticed his distant gaze. His staff saw his hands shake. He told no one, but inside he was crumbling. Curtis escalated. He followed James to school, loitered outside his gym, and even left a note on his windshield. "Tick-tock." The police dismissed it, without evidence. They couldn't help. James knew he was being hunted, but by someone untouchable. James tried to reason with Curtis, offering $10,000 in savings. Curtis laughed. "I don't want your money, I want her." He revealed he still loved Eliza and wanted her back. "She was mine first. You're just a placeholder." James thought she was joking, but her eyes were dead serious. She laid out a plan. Invite Curtis to an abandoned property under the pretense of payment. There, they'd take care of it. James was horrified. James refused. But Eliza moved forward without him. She bought gloves, a burner phone, and searched for untraceable poisons. She was no longer scared. She was resolved. James feared he'd lose her to either prison or her own darkness. Eliza called Curtis and lured him to the abandoned farmhouse. She told James she was going to end this. He followed from a distance. As he crept through the weeds, he heard voices escalate, then screams. Curtis lunged first, slamming Eliza against a wall. She pulled a knife and stabbed him twice in the chest. James stood frozen as Curtis gasped, fell, and died. Eliza turned to him, eyes hollow. "It's done. Now you know who I really am." Together, they buried Curtis behind the property. Eliza burned his phone, clothes, and wiped everything clean. They drove home in silence. James was now an accomplice, bonded to her by blood and fear. Curtis's brother reported him missing. Police questioned neighbors, including James. He played innocent. Eliza disappeared into herself, quiet, numb, almost lifeless. But both knew it was only a matter of time. James spiraled. Nightmares haunted him. He saw Curtis's dead eyes in his dreams. He drank too much. He withdrew from friends. Guilt consumed every part of his life. One night, drunk and broken, James confessed to a trusted co-worker. He spilled everything, tears pouring down his face. He ended with a whisper. "I don't know who she is anymore." The co-worker called the police. James and Eliza were arrested within hours. The body was recovered. Eliza was charged with first-degree murder. James was charged with accessory after the fact. Their quiet life shattered permanently. In jail, James received a handwritten letter. Eliza wrote, "You loved the version of me I created. Not the real me, but maybe you always knew. I never meant for this to happen to you. I just wanted to be someone new. But you can't outrun what you are." James never wrote back. James and Eliza were tried separately. The courtroom was packed, the media feasting on every detail. Eliza appeared cold and unreadable, while James looked haunted and thin. Prosecutors painted Eliza as calculating and dangerous. James's lawyer argued he was manipulated and scared. A surprise witness emerged, an old cellmate of Eliza's from her first prison stint. She testified that Eliza had spoken often of revenge, of starting over, and of how easy it would be to manipulate a kind, trusting man. The courtroom gasped. The jury deliberated for days. Eliza was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. James was convicted of accessory to murder and obstruction of justice. He received 10 years with possibility of parole after 6. Back in prison, Eliza was neither remorseful nor broken. She quickly re-established herself as a quiet leader among inmates. But she wrote no more letters. Her past had caught up with her, but she remained defiantly herself. In his cell, James kept a small photo of their wedding day. He stared at it often, wondering when the truth began to slip between the cracks. He had loved a woman who never existed. And now, he paid the price for believing in that illusion. If this story gripped you like it did us, help us bring more real-life mysteries to light. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were James? Until next time, stay sharp, because the truth always finds its way out.